is absolutely imperative that you vet the people that are representing your organization. Like, that is my number one advice to any installer that is on the lower end of the spectrum with regard to funds available, margins, things of that nature. You've got to keep your ship tight, especially when you're either starting out or keeping it small.
All right, Eddie Fernandez coming in first, even though Joshua Resnick was the first one in the waiting room. What's up, Eddie?
What up? Can you hear me?
Yeah,
loud and clear.
I love that Joshua is coming in with his nickname, and he couldn't get in. There he is. He has his nickname says Diamond. Joshua Diamond Resnick.
I love it.
I want to hear that story.
That's actually my middle name, believe it or not. You can look up on CSLB and see for yourself.
There he is. He's actually in the middle of the conversation. What's up, Joshua?
Eddie the Rake Crusher
What's up,
Fernandez.
Eddie, so good to talk to you, brother.
You too, man.
So we got to know right away, Joshua, what's with the Diamond? Are you the Diamond now? Is that your new nickname?
Did you say that's on?
No, that's my middle name. So I just
website.
Yeah, if you look me up on CSLB, it shows that's my middle name, and my autocomplete got it, and I was like, what the hell? I'll leave it in there. It'll at the very least it'll prompt some conversation. But the last installer I worked for had 2 other Joshes, so call me Rez if it won't get confusing.
That's an unbelievable middle name. I don't have a middle name at all, so that's why I have fun with my last name. But if I had named Diamond, I'd be calling myself Diamond all the time. I'd be like bling blinging everywhere.
No doubt.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. I love Moose as the nickname, Joe Moose.
Yeah, man. Thank you. So I'm super excited for this episode, guys. These are 2 of my favorite people in the industry, not even only the solar industry, just in social media and Facebook and friends. I'm friends with Eddie and Joshua. So Eddie Fernandez has been, oh my God, such a knowledgeable person for all these salespeople, sales reps, solar reps, like helping them out, figure out the finance side of things and just the organization side of things. So Eddie has been in finance for like 30 years. He's a PACE expert, really understands the PACE loans, is with Forbright right now. And we're going to learn more about Eddie. And then we got Joshua Resnick, who's with Sungage, who's actually started as a solar pro, got into the finance world, and now is with Sungage for the last 5 or 6 years. I'm guessing. Is that about right, Josh?
Yeah, 4.5 years, coming up on 5, and solar total of 12 years.
Wow, time flies. So we want to get started because we want to have a little fun. We want to get to know you guys in a segment where you call 5 words or less. So we just want to get to know you guys real quick. You could talk about yourselves. We'll try to keep it short, under 5 words. And then Joshua, I'll let you take away, bro.
Good to meet you guys, by the way. I don't know if we've ever interacted online before or anything.
Couple of Facebook comments here or there. Definitely know your name, but yeah, good to put a face to the screen name, and it's always fun to get to know people better this way.
Absolutely. I wish I'm going to try to get my name on CSLB edited, by the way. Joshua the Closer or something.
There you go.
See if they'll go for that one.
Bro,
I'll tell them it's
last name is already a nickname, bro. Like, you were born with a nickname. You can't beat that.
Yeah, I guess so. And Eddie, by the way, for someone who's been in finance for 30 years, my friend, you're looking okay.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that, man.
You're not looking that.
I skipped an exercise for this, so yeah, yeah, we stay going 4 to 6 days a week.
Love it.
Which exercise did you skip today? Now I have to know.
Yeah.
Muay Thai kickboxing today.
Woo!
Oh man, that sounds fun.
Mm-hmm.
That makes us feel special that you'd give that up for us.
Yeah, this is last minute for you guys. I really appreciate you jumping on last minute and canceling your Muay Thai. And I know Joshua is super busy too. So I want to say thank you for guys for making some time for us.
My pleasure.
Yeah, totally happy to be here. I can't wait to add some value.
Let's jump straight into it then. We got 5 words or less. I love today's topic. What we're going to be going over, the topics we've got written down here. So as Joe said, we got a little segment here, a little pre-planned segment that we love to do. Jump into it, called 5 words or less. Just gives yourself a bit of a chance to spill the beans on who you are as a person, what you're doing in solar. To let the audience and myself, because I've never interacted with you guys before, see your personalities. So we'll start with one that's you could take this as deep as you want to it, but the rule is 5 words or less. We'll start with my namesake there, Joshua. The first question: describe your personality.
5 words or less.
I would say geeky, resourceful, and empathetic.
They did it under 5. That's
And
cool.
to
That's
you,
great.
Mr. Eddy.
I'll add succinct since I have room.
Yeah, you got one more
I'll
to go,
add
man.
succinct since I have room.
Oh.
I don't think we can allow
Fail
that.
Army.
Rules.
Fatal
Succinct.
Army? I haven't heard that for
Right?
years.
See, now you know I'm old.
Hey, I'm
Okay,
right there
we'll-
with you.
we'll bring
That's
Fatal
a
Army
very
back.
JPEG'd ancient internet meme.
Love it.
Oh man.
Eddie, describe your personality. Let everyone know what's going on beneath the hood.
All right.
They don't count, Josh. Come on, man.
Yeah, you can't be counting those, man. Let's go. All right. So I would say resourceful. I would say direct. I would say helpful. And at the end of the day, I would say knowledgeable. And I think the last thing that I would talk about my personality is fun.
Love
I
it.
concur.
Good stuff. Going back to Mr. Joshua Resnick here. If you weren't doing solar, I love how we're just throwing you guys into this.
Yeah, let's go.
If you weren't doing
I'm
solar,
already sweating.
what would you be doing?
Who needs more
Welcome
time?
to the boiler room.
Yeah, no
Who
doubt.
needs more time, right?
Most likely software or IT sales, or if I really decided to dig into it, maybe go back to school for mechanical engineering or something like that. I worked in bicycle shops for 9 years. I've always been very gifted mechanically, so it's been years since I exercised that brain muscle. Would love to get back into that.
Let's get back to the software piece after this. I'd love to dive into that and how that integrates into solar right now. But good stuff. So, engineering, Eddie, if you weren't doing solar, other than curing the aging and sipping from the fountain of youth, what would you be doing?
Wow. I'm an entrepreneur at heart, but I'm at the point where I don't want to own anything anymore. So definitely I'd probably be a train conductor.
All right.
Conductor. Okay. Out of left field.
No,
there.
just
I
messing
like
with you
it.
guys.
I'm an entrepreneur.
No. In all seriousness, at the end of the day, a support role to another company is probably where I would be, somewhere in operations, helping people be more efficient. Right now, I'm in sales on the finance side.
Beautiful.
Love it. Third, going to Mr. Resnick here, and we have, who is your biggest solar/life influence?
Besides us.
Oh, that's a good.
of course.
Yeah, obviously you guys. That's a good question. I love some of the old classic podcast episodes. So I don't know if I have a person per se, but there are a couple of specific podcast episodes where they interview founders of relatively small companies who have been doing it for 30 or 40 years. And I just love hearing about, the old days where every rep had a Suneye and a spreadsheet, and that was how you quoted solar. And you had to do a full site audit before you could give people a price. I just love hearing about the old days of solar, because as long as I've been in solar, there's a whole other level before me. So anyone who's really been there and lived through it, I just want to soak in all the old stories.
Stuff. Same to you, Mr. Fernandez.
Repeat the question, please.
Who is your biggest solar/life influence?
Solar specific. You know,
Could be.
yeah. Well, life has been a lot of Zig Ziglar. You know, but at the end of the day, you know, in solar, the person that has really turned the corner for me was a gentleman named Jay Cass. He's provided a ton of knowledge on so many different levels of the industry. It can be operations, it could be you know, sales, it can be technical pieces to the puzzle, and having sat across the table from him at lunch and at brunch so many times, it's a wealth of knowledge coming my way. So I certainly respect him.
That is a popular answer on this show.
It is.
Because
Certainly is. Well, Jake Hess and Joe Moose are the two most popular answers we've ever had asking that question.
Yeah, for sure.
on occasion.
Yep. Number 4, I promise we're going to get into some fun stuff, but this is just to shake the cobwebs off and let everyone know who you guys are, including myself. Number 4, going to Josh or Joshua.
Either
I hate
one's
when people
fine.
ask me this, by the way.
Yeah, for the sake of this thing, call me Rez. When I worked at a previous installer, there were 2 other Joshes there, so I just told everyone to call me Rez.
Or J-Rez.
You can't imagine
J-Rez.
what my name was in high school when I had 5 other Joshes. Everyone just says the last name.
Oh, yeah.
The
King's a
life
good
of a
name.
Josh. Yeah. All right. Here's one you can lean into a bit if you'd like. Why are you in solar?
I kind of just fell in love with the industry. I was born and raised in Berkeley, worked in bicycle shops for 9 years, commuted by bicycle. It was very mechanical. I ended up selling cars for 3 years, right around when hybrids were coming out, and that conversation of you pay a little bit more, you get a little bit better gas mileage. And so then I got into Solar City at the end of 08 because a couple of buddies were there. And I was only there 3 months before they had a little contraction, laid off a few people. I got caught in that. 2 years went by at a different job, and then I got back into solar, Sungevity, April 2011. But that 3 months in Solar City was enough to just get me obsessed with the industry. The fact that people can save money, the fact that they have an alternative to, you know, the utilities, which for a lot of people are essentially a monopoly. I just really love the kind of independence of it, and the fact that you have your own power out on your roof. I just think that's cool as a geeky person who likes technology. And really what I love about it now are just the relationships and helping people do it, really. Yeah, I don't know. I've been in a position where I was offered a different job a few years ago outside of solar for a company that seemed pretty cool and a founder that seemed incredible who I would have loved to work for. I found myself explaining it's just not solar. And if you're not in solar, I feel like that's hard to get. So it's just its own passion, I guess.
I love that. So, Eddie, 500 words or less.
Yeah, I am a man of many words for sure. My journey to solar was an interesting one. Of course, coming from a finance background, commercial and residential mortgage industry. You know, when my mom was very sick and decided she was no longer going to seek treatment, she decided to have, you know, those one-on-ones with her children. And of course, during ours, the only thing that she said to me was, I want you to find something that means something to you. And here we are. So a month after she passed, you know, I sent out my resume to a company that was financing projects in the energy efficiency world, not just specifically solar, just anything that reduced the carbon footprint, saved water, and made properties more safe through seismic retrofit. And that's how I found that PACE world, which I live and breathe in today in the commercial side. So that's how I ended up here.
Let's go back to back on this last question there to keep the ball rolling. Eddie, what's the goal? What's the ultimate solar career goal?
Or does that be solar? Just the ultimate career goal?
Yeah. So, my mantra has been since day one when I stepped into the financial services industry was number one, to always do the right thing. And number two is to be the best in the business, be the best at what you do. What part of the business that you can bring to the table, you got to be the best. And so, at the end of the day, I feel like after being here since 2017 in the energy efficiency world, my eyes have been opened that we need more people with that mantra. My goal at this point is to have as many people walk in the doors, whether it's commercial or residential, doesn't matter, that when they have those meetings with those customers, that book of business that they have, that they're building, that they're always doing the right thing, and that they're bringing the most efficient, correct information to the people that they're meeting with. So that's my goal in this business.
Nice.
What about yourself, Rez?
I would say I love the industry. I love working with people and helping people succeed. I tend to really enjoy coaching, mentoring, training, supporting. I find I have a lot of fun helping small businesses succeed. And during the 2 years between Solar City and Sungevity, I worked for a small virtual receptionist service, and we had a lot of kind of solarpreneurs, a lot of small contractors, and did some BNI networking. So I really developed a fondness for small businesses. And so one of the things I love the most is just working with these small businesses, helping them out however I can. I kind of miss selling. So I feel like I do a little bit of selling vicariously, where they'll call me up and say, how would you answer this objection? Or I've got a customer saying X, Y, Z, and just talking through it with people. So I'd say my real goal is just finding a situation where I feel happy and meaningful and impactful, and just leaning into that and feeling like I'm making a difference and making other people feel good day to day, and just feeling like life is enjoyable and meaningful.
So what's that one title you want, Josh? That one title you would say, I did it in life. What would it be? Come on, it's in your head.
Oh, that's a good question. I've always thought about starting my own solar company. I don't know if I'd ever go through with it. But I would love the idea of helping to run a company with a small group of people that I really love and respect and know just kick ass, and just feeling effective and efficient, and just like we're really doing it. That's what I want.
Sign of a true leader.
Thank you.
There's our 5 words or less. So hopefully the audience and now myself knows the crew a bit better for today before we jump into the fun questions here.
Can I start off with this question?
Joe, yeah, I got so many questions. Joe, you want to start things off? Because I'll just start asking.
Yeah, because Josh is going to go like off on a rant of question after question. So I'm going to start off. But I actually wanted to learn about what you guys don't know. When we get into our jobs, we focus on what we do because that's where we're selling. But you also have to know your competitors' products, right? And I know Eddie really knows this stuff really well, so I want to kind of know from both you guys. So Eddie, you can go first. How well do you know like other products, and do you sell other products, and do you always go against it? Do you ever advise using other products besides Pace? And then Joshua, the opposite for you.
Yeah, well, so I'm a proponent. What's best for the customer is what's best for the customer. Mm-hmm. Like on a daily basis, from the day I started, I had a great mentor in the financial world, and whether it was mortgages, now it's Pace. I represent Forbright Bank with the commercial Pace product nationwide. My conversations are very consistent with the message that when I am introduced to a property owner, it's quite simple. We're gonna present the options, and if this is for you, then you're gonna get the white glove service. I'm gonna walk you through from start to finish. If it's not for you, that's okay too. we can make some recommendations to get you to the right people that for other products if you're looking at other products too. I think that's the best way that we can service the communities we serve.
And just to add to that, Eddie, like, do you know these products? Like, do you know, like, Sungage's financing options and Good Leaps and whatever other options, or prepaid and pay and these leases? And do you understand these other products, or do you just understand, like, try to focus on what you understand with your own product?
So I focus on being an expert at what I do on a daily basis. I have lived in the residential world as well, the residential finance world, in the solar industry and the energy efficiency industry. It was imperative that I did know the products that I was going against. It could point out, of course, to business partners, the great parts of that product and where the downfalls might be, as well as my own product that I was representing, what might be good or bad for a customer. So I have a good grip and understanding of leases, PPAs, prepaid PPAs, and then, of course, a deeper understanding of what those indices that those products are tied to, or what investment groups are backing those as well. And so, I feel like I'm at a point in my career to add a ton of value to people across the spectrum of the solar industry and the energy efficiency world. And it doesn't stop there. Josh alluded to it as well. And kind of the purpose driven statements that he made is, I think when you're in a finance role, where we shine is sometimes supporting those small businesses, larger businesses as well, the reps within those businesses, where we're coming in as the closer pretty much and helping those reps close those deals at the table.
Is that for you too, Josh? You coming in as a closer with the finance side? But go ahead with your side of what you look at when you're helping. Obviously for you it's a little different because you're Sungage and you're focused on their products. But I'm sure people ask you, "Hey, Josh, just what's really just the best thing for me?" Like, how do you answer those kind of questions?
Yeah, it very much agree with Eddie. I love getting on a call with the rep and the customer to kind of help talk through it, help answer questions, and talk up the installer. One of my favorite things that I used to say to customers all the time is that it's not a question of which is better per se, it's more a question of philosophy. So if you think about it in this way, then you go with that product. If you think about it in that way, go with that product. So at the end of the day, my role is to help you make sure you're making an informed decision, but the decision itself is up to you. And I've also been in situations where I've had to slow a customer down and say, listen, I understand that you like this product and you want to go for this product, but based on what you've told me about what you want, this product doesn't do that. This product does XYZ instead. And just that's the selling with integrity, is really making sure that the customer understands exactly what they're getting into, for better or for worse, because at the end of the day, you want a happy customer who's going to send referrals. And there are times where you may have to walk away from a customer either because you know that they're not going to be happy no matter what, or because you're just not confident that they really understand what it is they're trying to sign up for. And it comes back to that abundance mentality. When you've done this for enough years and done that enough times, you sort of develop I don't need this sale. What I need is to be able to go home and feel good about myself that I did right by that person. And it comes back to you tenfold in the long run. But over the years, I've sold leases on a few different papers. I've sold a bunch of different financing products. And so I feel pretty well rounded in most of what's out there, but I'll always be quick to caveat, this is what I remember from this product when I sold it 6 years ago. Odds are something's changed by now, so double check, do your own current due diligence. But here's what I remember, here's how you can apply that. And ultimately, it's just a matter of being honest and direct with the homeowner so that they can evaluate and decide what they want to do. And I've had customers with $30 bills who were thrilled that they could go solar. And I've candidly said, yeah, like if you're looking at it strictly from an investment lens, the economics kind of suck. But if your angle is you want to do it because you can, you think it's the right thing to do, and you like how this works, and you're comfortable with the numbers, then go nuts. And there's a lot of power in that candor of not pushing people into it. And so I really try to live in that mindset of, I'm your tour guide, I'm helping you decide what you want to do, but I don't want the personal responsibility of feeling like I talked someone into something that they didn't necessarily want.
That makes 100% sense. 100% sense. So, Josh, I know you're ready to go, bro. Go ahead, man. Fire away.
Well, Joe told me we had some finance nerds coming in today, and so one thing, I've said this before on the pod, I'm sure, one of the biggest things that separates the U.S. industry for me compared to all other industries I've been involved in the Canadian, U.S., Canadian, Australian, and New Zealand markets is the finance infrastructure. So in Australia, the majority of my experience, we had two finance providers, Bright and Hum, and they had 5-year terms. That was it. When I looked at the U.S. and I saw 25-year terms, so this is before even the 30 years came in, I thought there's no way in hell that it could possibly be true. I for months I was messaging people while I was still in the East, like, is this true? Like, I'm doing the numbers wrong here. You're saying you can save people their monthly is $100, $200 less than their last power bill? Like, surely that's not the case. You don't have a 25-year term on solar, right? So I moved in to the U.S. and found out it was true. And I believe because of that finance infrastructure and because that's there and because that's a standard, that's what's going to be probably the top, in my opinion, top 3 things that actually adds longevity to this industry, that it's not just going to be a blip up and down. We're not just going to see a boom for another year or two and it's gone. Like, the numbers just, they pencil out for quite a considerable length of time if we know that our equipment costs and general soft costs are going to decrease, and market and utility rates are going to increase. I don't see how it doesn't pencil out long term, right? But when then you create a culture of needing 30-year 0.49% terms to actually sell solar, and then we get hit with something we've got hit with the past 2 or 3 years. I still love this market is insane for me. Give me a 25-year and give me any dealer fee you want, any interest rate. Like, this is still amazing for me and for many others. But for others who see this happening and see dealer fees increase and the 30-year gets cut and who knows what's going to happen next, they start thinking the industry is going to go downhill. So what do you guys think is going to happen with financing? Interest rates going up, they're going down. How are dealer fees, in your opinion, going to be affected? Time ranges, because I can almost guarantee you when people watch this and they see finance, dealer fees, it's going to be the first question they have, right? What do you guys think? Open to
you don't have to be a finance expert. I can tell you it's going to go up. It's going higher, but I'll let them answer the question.
Yeah, Josh, if you might
my first response. Sorry, go ahead, Eddie.
Yeah, if you want to take the dealer fee piece, because I think that's more relevant to what you do, and then I'd like to speak maybe a little bit to the indices and kind of the trends and things of that nature in the background that affect all of those things that you'll talk about, because you live in the dealer fee world. We don't have dealer fees on the commercial side, so happy to kind of.
So Eddie, hold on a second. You used the big word, and I want to make sure everybody understands who's watching. Not me, but you said indices. What's indices? So everybody understands what that means.
So those are the benchmark, the benchmark of like a treasury. Like, there's a 10-year, 20-year, 30-year treasury. They don't sell the 30-year treasuries any longer, but I'll kind of delve into that a little bit more. But an indice is a benchmark investment that somebody can make and invest in. Banks can invest in, and that's how they utilize those forms of investment to create a financing market with a spread on it. We'll delve into that.
Thank you. Okay. Just had to dumb it down for me a little bit. I appreciate it.
Yeah, I was trying to find the right words for the podcast here, so my apologies as I kind of.
No, you're good.
To get it.
Yeah, as far as dealer fees and rates, I mean, I kind of just watch the news and watch to see what the Fed is going to do, because they're really the ones controlling the interest rate hikes. And there's a whole rabbit hole that we could all go into, about inflation and supply chain and all that stuff. And so I don't pretend to be any kind of expert, but I consume a lot of podcasts, just trying to follow along because I think it's fascinating. But I perceive financing to be an appliance. It's a means to an end. It's a way for the sales rep or the installer to win the deal. And when I started, I mean, the solar lease was the financing. It was a zero down with a 2.9 escalator. But when I started, we were selling 10-year leases, which is just, mind blowing to think about now. And it was 3 or 4 years before I even sold my first cash sale. And then, the financing came around a little bit later. So I kind of went sort of backwards from the trajectory of a lot of people these days. But it all just comes back to presenting multiple options and taking this from a you should go solar, yes or no, to do you like A or B? And then just a series of choices. And this is a really cheesy analogy, but I look at it like the eye doctor. They put that thing on your face and it's like, okay, one or two, A or B, A or B. And you just narrow down until you find the option that you want and then just kind of walk people through it. So it's really just about finding what works for the customer and helping them to understand that you understand what it is they're trying to accomplish and showing them something that fits. And there are times where homeowners are not perfectly rational, and what the math says is the best decision for them may not be what they're comfortable with. So people make decisions somewhat emotionally, not just on math, and so it's finding that balance. But yeah, that's kind of how I perceive it.
Hey, Eddie, I didn't mean to cut you off when I was asking about the word indices. Please, I want you to take it back over too. Thanks, Joshua.
I mean, solar loans are not based on anything, right, Eddie? They're just loans. There's no assets there,
I mean,
right?
that is so
Sales
funny
reps
you
just
say that.
click the button.
Because when people ask me what I do, I just say I hand out money all day. That's the easiest way to put I just hand out money. Here you go, everybody. But
that's why you're so popular, Eddie.
So there's so many things. I could go all over the place with this, but really for the audience here and for the people that decide that they want to listen to this, and the solar industry has been largely hit kind of twofold. Number one, you're talking about like the increase in interest rates. Okay, so yes, the interest rates increased, but what is in the background affecting all these things are just the index or the indices. Okay, they go up, and then of course the bank needs to make a spread on top of that, so that's where the rates go up with it. Okay, and if you want to bring that rate down, then typically you got to buy points, right? Much like if you go to a mortgage a loan officer and you say, what can I do to get my rate better? Well, you got to pay a point to get an eighth better on your rate. Okay, well, we all know the dealer fees are a lot different than that, but we won't get into that because most people that are watching this probably know about the dealer fee. Okay, but what's really affecting all of this in the background is a lot of the forward flow agreements are expiring. Right at all this is kind of like a two-headed dragon hitting the industry, the finance industry that supports the solar industry. Okay, so what is a forward flow agreement? It just means that a certain bank, usually a larger bank, has set aside a tranche of money for the solar lender and says, hey, you've got $1 billion to work with, $1.5 billion at this margin to work with. Here's your money. And that's what's called a forward flow agreement. So they set aside, that larger bank sets aside a certain amount of money. Okay. Well, those forward flow agreements have been expiring at the times the rates have gone up. So what's happened is what they thought that they were going to make on that money, the margins have shrunk. And so therefore, there's a number of things that have happened, but I think that the most impactful pieces to all this is that the important piece of maintaining a lower rate has increased the dealer fee to a point to where it might make sense to look at other ways to structure deals for property owners. A lot of it has been let's not work with the dealer fee, let's work with the rate, and let's reinvest savings and pay down principal, things of that nature to get you in a position to where you can save some interest on that money. especially because most people don't usually keep that 30-year term that you alluded to, 25 and 30-year terms, the lower payments that allow them to reinvest savings. That's how I position those long terms. It's not just about having a low payment over the long term. It's about owning your own power. So I don't want to get too long-winded here, so I'll kind of cut myself off here in just a second. And then we can kind of move on, or if you have any follow-up questions, I'm certainly happy to answer them. But to get to the index, right now, the most important index to really look at when you look at the type of financing that we live and work with in the solar world is the 10-year treasury. So when the yield goes up, rates go up with it. When the yield comes down, rates come down with it. Now, if you look at that yield on a daily basis and you're thinking that your solar lender is going to just decrease rates because the yields have come down, that's not the way that it works. The way that it works is a trending line will then have an impact. So if they come down and they stay down for a long period of time, you might see some change to your rates or your dealer fee, things of that nature. If they go up, as we know, things go up faster than they come down. Does that all make sense to you guys?
100%. Don't bank on the T-bills with a 0% interest.
Not today, my friend.
The lesson we've. So, do you think, and maybe this is contrarian, do you think it was irresponsible for solar to get as low on the interest rates and the dealer fees as they were before, and sort of mirroring that which SVB was doing and banking on low rates lasting forever, and banking on those margins?
So you mentioned a certain specific bank, and there are some other things that happened that were really impactful in the decision making that they made that actually don't have to do with kind of the subject matter of solar. But just to kind of sunset that, not just mention it, but I like to just mention, they had so much money come in so quickly, they had to place that money somewhere. Because for a bank to have cash on hand and just leave it there, billions and billions of dollars that they received, okay, they actually lose money by just keeping the money there. So they had to place the money. What they did is they found ways to park the money that had interest rates stayed low, they could have continued with their business. But since the rates inverted their investment, is the best way to put it, they started losing money. And so they needed to shore up their balance sheet because banks actually don't have all the money that they committed to on hand. So they needed to shore up. They put a $2 and change billion memo out there to their investors that they need to shore up their balance sheet. And that's what caused the panic with SVB. Okay. That's part of it.
Yeah. I guess the question I'm really asking is what the average sales rep would ask, right? It's like, let's say someone came in a year and a half ago when we had a 30-year 0.99%, right? And now they see a 25-year loan, and they say, well, loans are out. I need to start looking at PPAs or leases. Or unfortunately, some people might say, oh, the industry is going down for some ridiculous reason. Do you think that as a sales rep, having sold many deals myself, I want a 50-year term. I want a 100-year term. I want to get, the monthly as low as possible. But then eventually it just gets, one, irresponsible, and two, also potentially detrimental to our customer as well. Do you think we're ever going to see that 0% interest realm or close to 0% interest realm exist in solar again? Or are we going to bounce back a bit? And if so, to what extent? And what would need to happen in, we don't have to get too deep on it though, but what would need to happen in the back end for us to start seeing a bounce back of decreased dealer fees? And I also want to move to leasing and PPA and additional stuff. What would need to happen for us?
Everybody wants to know, how do we get dealer fees lower?
Yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot to unpack there. I'll let Josh kind of chime in here on the front end of that line of questioning, and then I can kind of bring it home for you guys.
Yeah, I mean, I think at its core, the finance companies are service providers, and the products they come up with are really driven by the market demand. And so I'm competing, for every loan, just like the other lenders are on every deal. And so we just want to have something that attracts our customers, who are the sales reps and the installers. So it's really driven by market demand, and trying to compete in the same space as your neighboring companies. And so that's really kind of why these products are invented. And then as far as, we all hope rates will come down eventually. And this is why I consume all these podcasts, just to try to follow it and understand it. But yeah, based on the news articles I've read, it seems like we're expecting it to kind of start stabilizing eventually. But obviously, I don't have, a crystal ball, or I would be independently wealthy in the stock market. But that's really what it comes down to, is if our customer base wants these products, we'll try to find a way to make it work. And my primary concern is just always helping the installer win the deal, whether it's with me or without me. And I actually have a lot of installers that are very heavy cash sales, so it's always interesting to hear when they tell me what they're seeing in their market when their customers are starting to pivot either slightly away from cash and towards finance, or vice versa, whatever reason. So in some ways, I've seen a little bit of an uptick in desire for financing, with the market being slightly more unpredictable. Some customers are a little bit more inclined to keep their cash. And when rates are insanely low, that can also inspire people to keep their cash. So it just all depends on the individual's decision processes. But yeah, I'm watching the Fed meeting schedule every month to see when is the next meeting, and what do all the talking heads think they're going to do.
Keep us up to date, Josh. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
Yeah, Josh, I have a lot of respect.
Eddie, can I set you up for an alley-oop here?
What was that?
So I'm going to try to set you up for an alley-oop. When things go wrong with a certain product, when things go wrong with a certain way of doing things, all of a sudden there is room for innovation. There's room for movement. There's room for growth. That's where I love to exist. I love to exist in the chaos and find a new way to do things. What could that look like? Or what maybe does that already look like, but people don't know about right now in the solar space in terms of financing their solar?
Yeah, it's the right question to ask. Opportunity and chaos is the biggest thing that drives entrepreneurship, and the finance world is not immune to people trying to find new ways to reinvent the wheel, so to speak. The wheel works perfectly, as is. We still have finance products. Most of the banks that you have worked with on a daily basis still exist. They're still writing deals, but that also bleeds into the entrepreneurial spirit, where people are going to try and, in a myriad of ways, create new products. You mentioned earlier, longer terms to keep the payments low. I honestly think that would be a mistake. They tried to do that in the mortgage industry, and it fell on its face, in my opinion. It really wasn't a great product. It wasn't a fix to the market. The great thing about what we do for a living is provide the products that are in demand, like Josh, kind of right on Josh's coattails here, is although we can't get to the 0% right now, the one thing we can bank on is that there's ebbs and flows in the market, and the finance world will have at some point a reprieve and have a lower interest rate market arena where the products will come back to a certain point. Hopefully some of the banks that lost money may no longer exist. Those people end up somewhere where they can utilize that experience to help another bank get it right the next time. And so, you also alluded to kind of, there has been in my opinion, there's been a lot of rhetoric about, the run to the lease. Finance is no longer the best because of the rates. I would fundamentally disagree with that, not just because I finance, but because I know about those products as well. Most of those products have an escalator in there. There's a built-in profit margin specifically for that product, where that investor is reaping not only benefits of all the current market depreciation and incentives, but they're also putting themselves in between the meter provider and the property owner. And I'm not sure that I have 100%. How do I say this diplomatically? I have a moral compass that probably doesn't allow me to live in that world on a daily basis. The great thing about the financing world is when you reinvest savings and drop down principal, I think that's where the difference is in the market. And I think that's why the mainstay of financing projects will stay over the long haul in the traditional finance manners, whether it be, what product like Josh represents, myself, but really having the ability to put your property owner in control of how much interest they pay over a term, and as well the opportunity to own their own system, which is actually attached to their real property.
And you mentioned, Joe, you can stop. I'll just keep going here because I'm about to jump into software now and how it integrates into finance. And this is where I really get excited. You mentioned that buzzword, traditional finance, right? For sales, or at least for me back in the day when I heard the word traditional finance, I started, we're doing finance applications on pen and paper and phone calls to the office. That's how I started in solar. The platform-based finance did not exist. When it first started, we're like, nah, we didn't even like it because we like good old pen and paper and calling into the office, right? You always used it almost as like a sales tool back in the day. Now, I can't imagine doing that. And software has really maximized efficiency. So with our software, we integrate with different finance providers' APIs, and we're always looking for innovative ways to make the process a lot smoother, not just for customers, but for sales reps as well, because we know how many errors can be caused from sales reps. So Josh or Rez, maybe this is a question for you. How do you think the world of software and the world of finance can continue evolving and growing in the solar space? What cool things are you seeing right now, or that you're working on, or that you've seen other people working on?
Yeah, I think it's just making the process easier on all sides and reducing friction. When I started a sales conversation, the first thing I would always try to suss out based on my instinct is how patient is this person? Do they want to take their time and have an hour and a half conversation with me, or are they very fast and after 30 minutes, I'm done? And if your sales process outruns that customer's attention span or patience, there's just no possibility of closing. And so I'm a firm believer in meet them where they are. I remember this must have been 2007 or something, walking into an Apple store, and when you decide to check out, they brought a little wireless, cash register thing over to you. And at the time, that was mind blowing. And it's like, it can't get much more meet them where they are than that. I actually sold cars for 3 years, and I remember doing the Foursquare, the pen and paper, the write up. And I even had one customer where they parked their car, wouldn't get out. I went and said hi to them. The other sales reps thought I was crazy. It was hot, so they invited me to sit in the back seat. I spent an hour sitting in the back seat of their car, just chatting with them. Eventually pulled up the other car. They transferred their stuff. I brought the contract out into the car. I mean, again, it's just a matter of meet them where they are. So I think all these integrations are so cool, and any additional bandwidth or brain space that you can free up by automating and streamlining processes, the more you can focus on the client in front of you and be in the moment. And so I love it when my reps text me and they say, hey, I'm in a home, I have a quick question. And being able to do that when you're sitting at the kitchen table with a homeowner staring at you keeps you in the moment. So I really like seeing all these integrations, making it easier, making it cleaner, making it more accurate, and just getting you back to focusing on the person you're with.
Love it. when we talk integrations and we talk automizing and digitizing, I mean, at this point it's 2023. We've done it by now,
Right.
but I'm really fascinated as well as how that's going to improve underwriting processes, how it's going to improve the efficiency of the back end to give people more confidence to better data to actually loan. For example, we're taking a look at insurance right now, car insurance. If you see what's happening with Tesla, they have massive data set. And so they know who they can give low rates to and who they need to give high rates to, right? And I'm fascinated to see if there's any further progress that's going to happen there. Here's one. This is out of left field, but I think this is really interesting for the future. Eddie, here you go. What do you think about what the future of home renovation, go loans in general, but solar specifically? If everyone's hearing that solar is such a good investment, what would you say to the idea of in the future having more of a decentralized peer-to-peer financing system to finance both residential and commercial projects? Would that be viable at all, or will you ever always need some sort of centralized system to handle that liability?
Yeah, so peer-to-peer is great on a micro platform. I think that the risk level across the board would be pretty preventative to a large scale peer-to-peer. These are my first thoughts like coming across my head here, kind of on the fly. But this is really what has muted the amount of peer-to-peer lending on a large scale, like I believe you're talking about, that provided the question here. There's large tranches of money, trillions of dollars that we're talking about that are earmarked for our industry. And so to provide the opportunity to take away that money from the current allocations that are already out there and put it into a peer-to-peer, because that money would have to be pulled back into the hands of the consumers to lend to another consumer. So I think that there's a lot of, it could be done, but I think that there's there would have to be a fundamental shift in the banking industry to even achieve that. And it would have to go to regulation as well. And I'm hoping
You just have to include a little more writing, a little small claims court. Now you have to go to small claims court to get your money.
Yeah. The loss to a peer-to-peer consumer is much more impactful to somebody's life. Is really, you kind of hit the nail on the head, Joe. There with that is if I take my $30,000 and I lend $15,000 to another person for a roof and a small system, or just a small system, and they default on that, just the clawback for me to get 50% of my funds back would be pretty tough on me in my life. So, but I think with certain types of regulation, pooling peer money together is a way to achieve it. But I think we're ways off.
All right, Josh, sounds like you have to go. Start it up. You can start the app. Hasn't been started.
Oh no! These are all thoughts that I'm always thinking about. Yeah, I mean, crowdsourcing peer-to-peer is very interesting. I'm always just so keen to see what's around the corner when we have big shifts or perceived shifts to a certain sector, right? Because certainly finance and the economy right now it's a big shift, and whether it's going to be stable in 6 months or a year or 2 years, it gives people ideas of how things could be done differently, and that's when you start to see innovation. I'm really interested to see what it would look like in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years.
Yeah. I have a
what
go ahead.
I was just going to say, with standard stuff, what do you think is going to happen in 5 years, 10 years? What is solar financing going to look like?
Yeah, well, I like to pair things up in conversation. What I feel is going to be the next level. It's not just for the financiers, but it's going to be the installers, the brokers, the salespeople, the operations. It's really going to be impactful for the industry as a whole. is because we're seeing a shift with the way that the utility companies are going, right? California is a perfect example with that NEM sunsetting NEM 2.0 to 3.0. That's one side of the business. But when we talk about pairing the impact of what a solar person, a solar professional is going to have to do, is they're going to have to do the right thing to stave off regulation. And so they're going to have to become more professional. As we see some of the lower producing, lower earners kind of go to the wayside because maybe they're a little bit afraid of the next level, where you really have to level up with being a professional, knowing your finance products and knowing the proposal software from soup to nuts, and being able to articulate that to a property owner, as opposed to being maybe a setter or a process operations person or a closer. You're going to have to be a little bit more well-rounded to help stave off some of the regulation that will come. I believe that what's already been done and being done today, will have an impact on how much regulation comes in and how much we're going to have to change and adjust to the regulation, because they're already looking at everything. They're looking at the finance companies. They're looking at the solar companies across the board with regard to regulate, complaints and things of that nature. And we've had some pretty big, flubs in the industry, which, we're going to bash anybody and name any names, but we've had some people go to the wayside that probably should have. And there's some people in the market that probably shouldn't still be here. But the great thing is there's some good companies showing other companies how it should be done.
Love that. What do you think, Josh? What do you think your next 5 to 10 years looks like?
I can't wait to find out. I think Eddie's really onto something with, it'll be interesting to see regulation coming. California's done quite a bit of that. The CSLB website is a wealth of knowledge. They've even got an example installation contract which I've linked to people in other states as well, just because it's a very simple, easy, digestible example of like, here's how to write an installation contract. They've got the California Solar Consumer Protection Guide, which is like 20 something pages, which you can really sell to and use to your advantage. I remember doing welcome calls years ago, and I'd prep the customer by saying, listen, this welcome call exists as a consumer protection. If I've done my job correctly, this whole call will just be a checklist of everything I already told you, and you'll feel almost annoyed at, why are you telling me this, Josh? I already told me this. That's the point. And so we'd sail right through the welcome calls, and I've known for years that clean deals make you money. So yeah, regulation is interesting, and as rates and fees and prices climb, we're going to have to shave costs in other ways. So Solar App Plus, for example, really excited to see that starting to catch on. Solar automated permitting process. We should all look it up. We should all follow it, post about it, just get it out there. And one of the most interesting parts of the pandemic for me was, I remember talking to some of my installers and saying, hey, how are things going in your AHJ? And hearing the response, oh man, this online permitting process is making everything take forever. And me saying, tell me about that. That seems a little counterintuitive. Wouldn't online permitting be instant? And they'd say, well, this is a small town. I used to go to the office. I used to meet with the same person that I've met with, every week for 10 years. And we go through the plans, and I get my permit stamped in person, and we're out of there. But now that we're all moving to the computers, this person's not comfortable with computers. They're not used to the online software, and it's stopping everything up. So change is good. Change can bring about efficiencies, but there's also a learning curve. But some amount of standardization will really help shave costs in other places. But yeah, I'm really curious to see how the industry responds to continue to have a compelling product as the situation changes. And as mentioned, I've had customers that seemed really interested on a lease, and me saying, hey, based on your situation, what you've told me, I think you should take a look at the purchase, even if just to rule it out, because I think that could really work for you, and the other way around. And I've had cases where I still think the purchase would have been the smarter choice, but they wanted a lease, so be it. And I've had cases where they really wanted to own it, but based on what they've told me, I wasn't confident they'd get the tax credit. And I told them I wouldn't sign them until they check with their tax person first, because I just, I wouldn't feel right about that. So it's a combination of having the right products that people want and something that customers feel activated by, but also being able to make sure you can offer something that is really good for them. And that's a balance.
I think you'll be happy to hear, Josh. In Australia, years ago, we standardized permitting, and for about 95% of the country, everyone got used to it. 2-minute permits online for 99% of the cases.
Amazing.
So I
I
am
love that.
all for Solar App. Everyone watching right now, go to Solar App, Google it, take a look at it, tweet about it, put it on Facebook, contact your AHA, get it out there. That will completely revolutionize the industry. Talk about expediting, killing
Mhm.
installation timeframes. My goodness, it has
Yeah.
to happen.
And there's a
I'm
ton of
excited
great
for that for sure.
content about it already. And I mean, the installer I worked for before Sungage, their local AHJ had over-the-counter permitting, and absolutely loved it. I mean, we could sign someone, have them, built 2 weeks later, and it's all by the book, permit in hand, finalized. And that's kind of what I love about hyper local solar, where your permit contacts, your inspector contacts, and this industry is all about relationships. And you know, my boss goes way back with Eddie. Eddie and I go way back because of that introduction. And I really just love the community of solar, and I think that's how we're all going to work together to streamline the process.
Yeah, that's
Well,
great.
I have a quick question. Speaking of the, go ahead, Eddie.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it's so funny. It is a small world. Like I used to be Josh's rep when he worked for that installer.
That's right. That's right. That's
What?
right. And
I used to be his finance rep.
yeah, at my last installer.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's funny. My last installer, I was working for them when I got introduced to Sungage, and then I moved to Sungage, and now they're my account, and so it all comes full circle. So it's your relationships are your contacts, and it's great to talk to people when they call you up. It's like, oh, I'm over here now. Oh, congrats! How do you like that company? Say hi to so and so. And I always joke that the longer you're in solar, the smaller it feels, because we all know each other, and I think that's one of our biggest strengths together.
Speaking of that and community, I'm going to change the subject from finance for a little bit here. I'm going to ask the non-finance question. I'll let Josh ask the finance questions. But speaking of community, there's a big community on social media, and I think you guys are good, advocates of using social media to help out in career, to help out the community, to build relationships, to network. I know Eddie, especially, has probably done great things for your career. I'm not sure as much for Joshua because I know you're been with Sungage for a while. But Eddie, if you want to go first, can you talk about how social media has affected your career and how you utilize it, and how kind of relationships you've been able to build using it?
Yeah. So, an interesting fact about social media and my business is that I had built a lot of my relationships, with a handshake and introduction. And it's pretty slow going. You build the right relationships over time, and it takes years and years. Social media in the last 2.5 to about 3.5 years, I was actually asked to make a profile by one of my contractor partners because he felt like my services were being underutilized. He's like, everybody needs to know about you. I mean, he's like, this is what I want you to do. I want you to get a Facebook, with under your business, and I'm just going to introduce you to people. And that's how I ended up with a Facebook. And he did that. He introduced me. He said, you need to get into this group and that group, and I did those things. And I was I'm an older guy. I had my reservations, but I will tell you that instant connections that happen with social media really have changed the way that I think as an older person about the business itself. It's an integral part of business that's I don't feel is ever going to go away from here. And how it's specifically impacted is twofold. Like I said, I like to pair things. One, it allows me to provide information, and two, once I provide information, whether it's answering a question on a post or whether it's putting something out there in the world, just general information about my business, I tend to get some type of response from somebody that's had an experience with me where they're saying something positive about my business or they're supporting the comment that I've made. And then therefore building confidence with the people that don't know me that feel now comfortable to message me personally, or I'm introduced to them. Hey, I see that you commented here. Okay. You guys should get together. And sometimes that's part of the thread. Sometimes that comes in private messages. And it's, I don't actively look for new relationships with social media. I look to provide help and content and answers and support to people's business. And I get paid back tenfold.
100%. Definitely noticed that. And Joshua is really big on these like Facebook groups and being part of the community and answering questions and even keeping the peace and like breaking up fights and taking out the bullies, like really being part of that community. Joshua, I just want to ask you, like, why do you do it? How much does it mean to you? And kind of like your experience using Facebook and social media in general.
Yeah.
There's the cat behind you.
There's the cat. The dog has been coming and going.
And dogs.
Yeah. It's funny you say that because that's one of the things I love about Facebook is when you become Facebook friends with a client, then you start to have a little bit deeper window. And so I really enjoy the fact that they see some of my silly moments and how like, wow, this guy's always going on hikes with his dog. And one thing I remember noticing in years past is that the modern consumer is allergic to bullshit. And so there's a point at which too much professionalism can prevent you from forming a real sincere connection with people. And so just being myself. And I found these groups on accident and, I enjoy helping people and I'd see someone answering a question. It's like, oh, I can answer that. So I do. And now I think it's a lot of vicarious selling since I don't sell directly anymore. I enjoy, working on my talk tracks and helping people out. But it's brought me a fair amount of business and I always try to approach it of, I just want to, add value into the world. And that's the environment I want to create. I want to create a very selfless environment because that's the environment I want to be in. And so I just work to maintain that. And so I've had a lot of fun getting to know everyone in these Facebook groups. And I never did it with the intention of bringing myself business, but it's worked out very well that way. And I really love being a part of that community. And so, yeah, and going to events, like SPI and meeting people in person that I've had on my friends list for a couple of years is so fun. So I love that.
And
And you hate spammers.
I do hate spammers. Yeah.
People are just trying to be like selfish, or they have their own product they're trying to push, and they're not being part of the community. You kind of sniff that out, and kind of you're part of the moderators in a lot of these groups, right? Solar Pros and Solar Objections, and so
yeah, I'm a moderator. And thank you. Yeah, in two of those groups, and I think about referral business as farming, not mining. So you invest and then eventually you get back, not just extracting. And so, but yeah, I want to create a very positive, nurturing environment because that's where I feel most comfortable, most effective, and most productive. And that's, what's the expression? Be the change you want to see in the world. So I just try to put that out there. And there are times where I falter and have to remind myself. But I always try to take a step back and think, okay, intentionally, how do I want to be? Who do I want to be? And try to make that choice. And I don't always succeed, but that's the goal.
I love that. Josh, you want to get back to the finance questions? Looks like you're itching.
The only other thing I was gonna bring up from before was regulation. It's an interesting topic, and with everyone pouring into the market now in the U.S. Unfortunately, I certainly don't believe we've even got close to the peak of sales reps not doing the right thing. I don't even think we're close. I think the next 5 years is the boom, and because there's a big wave coming in, there's going to be a lot of nasty stuff happening. What I've seen with regulation is pretty interesting. So two stories. One is in Australia. There's regulation, but they were never able to regulate sales reps. They regulated installers, and then they regulated incentives and funding. So the EPC would need to have some sort of sticker on their name and pay a fee in order to get access to some sort of incentive program or rebate program. So they would control the money for the regulation. If the EPC was putting through sketchy deals, they'd cut that money off real quick. That worked pretty damn well. The issue with regulating salespeople is they always find a way around it. So Exhibit A, HIS licenses. Talk about the CSLB. So we launched our platform earlier in the year, and we decided that we would have a manual HIS review process before ever allowing people to submit, even book appointments into the system for California jobs. And what we found was, and I could probably assume this is happening, I'm not kidding, 95% of people that were trying to sell in California or submit HIS licenses were fake. All their licenses were fake. So
Wow.
I don't think it's going to be possible to regulate sales guys, but maybe I'm wrong. I love you guys' thoughts on it, just from that one experience alone and previously. But how do you guys think would be the best way to regulate an industry to make sure jobs are clean, customers are getting taken care of, and the right people are selling and the right people are installing?
Wow.
I think the perfect is the enemy of the good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Eddie.
No, I want you. I want you. I want to hear your thoughts for sure. But I definitely want.
Hey, Joshua, that was a good start. Keep it going.
Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I think we do the best we can given the information we have at the time. And there's some degree of warmer, colder trial and error. I do, I'm always looking on CSLB. I mean, I look up the license of any, or other state websites of any installer I might partner with. And sometimes I look up sales rep HISs just to see which other installers they're connected to. And so I think that's a good first step. I think training is huge. I think on the other side of NEM 3, there's going to be sort of a rough adjustment as people learn how to model, how to sell, making things accurate, and so that'll be a challenge we'll all have to rise to. And I think part of it is, I think a lot about company culture. I love working for companies where I feel supported, and I think it's up to us, the leaders of the industry, to create that industry culture of we do it the right way, and that's just how it works. Yeah, I think it's important to remember that nothing's going to be 100%, and I think the ideas you mentioned, King, are great places to start. I'd have to really sit down and think about what regulations I would suggest if it were up to me. But I don't have any issue with, welcome calls or like the California Solar Consumer Protection Guide. I really do feel that if I've done my job, or back when I was selling, if I've done my job correctly and gone over all this with the customer, it'll all be review for them. So I don't think it'll get in my way if I'm making a conscious effort to get in front of it, which I generally try to do as part of the process anyway.
I don't know. A lot of reps, all they care about is getting their commissions in their bank account.
What a great segue for
Yeah,
me.
I don't think Josh is the person that would be regulated out. That's the issue.
Yeah.
That's going to be the end of the other
That's
end of
my-
the spectrum, right?
That's my hope.
Yeah,
Good.
so I'll speak to the other side, the dark side. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've seen and had to call out and had to have these really tough conversations in a professional manner with somebody who is completely unprofessional in this industry. To your point, King, it is, it is something that is almost unregulatable. So my advice would be this. Okay, California is onto something. California doesn't do a lot of great things, but I think that they're on to the start. HIS numbers, I think Connecticut has them as well, and some type of licensing. I think there should be standard licensing for people that are going into people's homes and they're selling $30,000-$40,000 systems. These are large decisions that are being made. And so I think there's a start there. But when we talk about installers, if you're on the smaller spectrum of an installer, it is absolutely imperative that you vet the people that are representing your organization. Like, that is my number one advice to any installer that is on the lower end of the spectrum with regard to funds available, margins, things of that nature. You've got to keep your ship tight, especially when you're either starting out or keeping it small, because you get one or two reps selling multiple deals over a short period of time that can take you out of the business. On the other side, it's interesting with regard to the larger organizations. I've seen, we've seen larger organizations get taken down as well over a short period of time, meaning relative to their business, a year or two, with some unscrupulous people underneath their umbrella. So it can happen on a large scale, but the ultra large, it's the cost of doing business. It's almost, if you got 4,000 reps across the country, it's going to be really, really tough to regulate every single person. So I think a standardized way of doing business with regard to licensing will help those larger organizations keep track of the people who are able to get licenses, things of that nature, especially if they have some type of compliance division that is working with those reps as they onboard. And then the last thing I'll say with regard to this is, if you are the person that thinks that this business can make you rich and that's all you care about, it's true. You can use people, you can use installers, but that lifespan of your career will be very short once the regulation starts to come in. So to your point, King, the next 5 years will really be taking this industry from what I would consider now is still in its infancy to a legitimate worldwide business that is coming to the United States on a larger scale, because I feel that other countries have adopted solar largely more than us. But now we have the opportunity to mature the market and have the adoption of what we do for a living, which is, of course, how people become energy independent.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I guess the licensing would definitely help larger organizations. I still think the most effective way I've seen it is you go after the money, but that would be a massive push together to assign some sort of licensing to installers specifically, to government statewide incentives, or to even finance providers only allowing certified installers, for example, to use their financing, and then it get cut off if they have a few black marks against their name. It was very effective in Australia, but I don't know if it might work in the US or not.
Well, there's some components already of the industry that are already doing this, just so you know. So there has been in recent years installers that have continued to hire and try and maintain the wrong type of sales rep get cut off from the money. Just so you know, it is happening.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
And there's some risk management from the company side as well. I mean, large installers, put new sales reps through training just as much for selling as they do for limiting their own liability and protecting themselves. And various finance portals have various trainings and quizzes and tests that sales reps have to go through to gain access. So there is infrastructure in place. Um, but yeah, I think we just have to kind of look at what works, look at what doesn't, and at the same time, we don't want regulation to be constrictive. And that's back to the point about Solar App, is that the more within reason, the more uniform and streamlined it can be, the more profitable and accessible it can be. So there's that balance where you don't want it to be a barrier, but you want it to be a guideline, and you still need to allow room for innovation and differentiation. So it's definitely a balancing act.
I love that there's still so much room for improvement on the permitting. Like, it's so crazy to me how much room for growth this industry has. Like, we're amazing that Solar App is not yet put into play. Imagine when that's standard. I don't know how long it's going to take. Let's say a year, right? Let's go a year. Let's say nationwide. Please.
It's active in some places. Yeah, right. I don't know where, but it's active in some places. But it's just such a cool concept. Sorry, go ahead.
Several spots around California, I believe in Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, and then scattered through other places. But again, for those of you who don't know what Solar App is, check it out. That's the future of the industry for sure.
Yeah.
Nice one. Well, I'm out of finance and regulation questions, Joe. My technical, boring questions are all squeezed out.
That was great. I think a lot of people are getting a lot of value out of that. I wanted to ask one more question that's not finance, and then we want to do a little segment. Do you guys have a few more minutes, or you guys have to run out of here?
Yeah, no, it's good. We're here for the industry.
All right, let's do it, baby. So my last question before we get to the fun segment we have next is that both you guys I look at as super organized, like on schedule, prepared and knowledgeable, and your products, and you're that people go to people to get that information. What are some advice, some tips to the audience watching? How do you get to that place where you're organized and you can give the right information to people, your product, and how do you get to that level? Eddie, if you want to answer that question, because I know that you're great at helping train this.
Yeah, at the end of the day, you have to have a plan about your business. And it's so cliche, it's so basic to be good at something that people overthink it and they end up doing 20 different things. You need to do 5 things really well every single day, 7 things well every single day. And that's my advice to anybody, whether you're, a high level, high producing person that wants a little bit more time with their family, or whether you're stepping into a new business, whether it be this business or any other for that matter, and you're trying to learn, do 5 to 7 things really well every single day and repeat it and repeat it and repeat it. And it's so basic that at the end of every single day, if you can say, I got most of everything that I wanted done, then you've been successful. You will not complete every single task every single day, and you shouldn't beat yourself up over that. You should continue to strive to be better. Really, there's not a ton to being good other than knowing your business and following through.
Love that. W. Josh. J. Rez.
I agree wholeheartedly. I was going to say, for me, it starts with knowing myself and ruthless prioritizing. So I love digging into my own self-awareness. Like, what can I learn about myself? What's a little epiphany? And for New Year's resolution type things, I look for what's a tiny adjustment I can make that might have a farther reaching impact. And so this year, my resolution was so simple. It was no cell phone before I get out of bed, because I know myself. And if I wake up, I grab my phone just for 5 minutes, an hour can go by and the morning's gone. But if I don't touch the phone until I'm already out of bed, now I'm doing my morning, stretches and planks or what have you, and the day's on a whole different trajectory. So that really helps. I think the other part of knowing yourself is I try to be a combination of brutally self-honest, but also compassionate. So there's a difference between saying, okay, this is the truth about myself, but I'm going to really talk down to myself. They don't go together inherently. Um, so it's like, what am I good at? What am I not great at? What am I efficient at? What works for me? What doesn't? And just zeroing in. And you can start really small with one or two tiny tactical things, and that can really help. So for me, I just know that I like having everything written down. Otherwise, I'll forget because squirrel. And so I've got a couple of favorite little truism quotes which really help me. One is simple does not mean easy. So changes like my no cell phone before I get out of my bed. Super simple, maybe not as easy as it could be. And so, pulling those two apart helps me think about challenges in a different way. Another quote came from a speech and debate textbook of all places, which is something along the lines of, our weaknesses are rarely the opposite of our strengths. More often, they're the excesses. And so, a negative habit or quality or whatever that's not serving me, it may not even be an actual negative quality. It might be a positive quality that's simply overflowing. And so maybe I'm really tenacious at following up with people, and that's a good thing. If I follow up too long with a customer that's no longer worth following up with, now it's overflowed into a bad thing. And so I try to look at that with other people too, is if they're doing something that's not working or hitting me the wrong way, then I'll try to ask myself, what positive trait or characteristic of this person is just overflowing right now? So that's really where I try to exist, is self-awareness, self-compassion, and that what tiny little tactical thing can I do that'll make a difference, and start with just one and then build on that. And for as effective and organized as I might seem, I'm constantly criticizing myself for time that I'm wasting on, researching some tangent of why my Surface Pro dock has the second monitor flicker when I'm booted up into Ubuntu. Like I don't need to be researching that. And then,
I think you've been
so
researching that, Josh. That was too
yeah,
specific.
it's not like I was researching that today or anything. So, but yeah, simple does not mean easy.
I love that. And just really quick, just talk about how you can help people. What people do you want to help? That's this audience specifically. Like, do you want to help reps? Do you want to help companies sign up? Do you want to help, train? Like, who are you trying to help in the industry?
That's a great question. I would say whoever thinks they can benefit from something that I may know or have experience with, and then I pride myself on being a connector. So for commercial financing, for PACE financing, I mean, Eddie's, I can't count how many times I've tagged in Eddie, and things
Me
like
too.
that. So I exactly, I really enjoy making those connections. But yeah, obviously solar financing, I love cheesy little talk tracks for residential sales. And this is how nerdy I am. If I find myself posting a Facebook comment where say this to the customer, ask these questions, sometimes I'll read it, reread it, edit it 8 times. I'll be like, wow, that's a really good template. And I'll copy paste it and save it to my Google Keep. And so then when it comes up again in 3 months, I'll just copy paste, boom. So I've been kind of building this arsenal of talk tracks just because I'll type something out and I'll really like the way it ended up. Um, so yeah, if you've seen or heard me say something that seems like it might be beneficial, reach out and I'll help if I can. If I can't, I'll tell you what I can do, apologize, and then try to connect you to someone who can.
I do the same exact thing, Josh. Eddie, same exact question. Who are you trying to help? Who should reach out? Is it just commercial? Is it just commercial finance? Is it just PACE? Who else should be reaching out to you?
Yeah, everything Josh said, everything Rez said, and all this as well. So I live and breathe, the commercial PACE product. I would consider myself an expert at it. If it can be done under the PACE world, we're going to get it done. Like at the end of the day, that's really where I want to help people. I want to help people understand what we do. There's so many misnomers about what the asset class is, and so there's that hill to climb with a lot of people. But at the end of the day, when I look at the industry as a whole, I just want to, at this moment in time, I'm trying to help the companies, the reps, whether it's residential or commercial, anybody connected to our industry, understand that we have the opportunity to do the right thing so that we don't get over-regulated. We don't end up in a market where we're over-regulated and trying to claw back regulation, and we're not out there serving the communities that we live and work in. And so right now, if I, business wise, how I do that is everybody I come in contact with, whether it's a residential rep that has a commercial lead where they most likely need financing, but they may not. I help them develop that project. I'm certainly able to help them get with an installer that can do a commercial proposal, work with them, figure out, the right person to speak with that organization to make sure that it's a right fit fundamentally with, the philosophy as well as pricing, as well as pay, all that wonderful stuff. I don't, of course, get into the nuts and bolts of their pay, but get them connected with the right people with that organization so they can work out those details. And then, of course, get them with the property owner, okay, and a potential finance option, and then answer any other questions that they may have, that property owner, to help them understand that there's options for finance, but there's also a great opportunity to work with not only the person that's introducing us, but the organization that I personally feel comfortable with, that they're now potentially going to have as the install partner. And so I think, that goes along with everything that Rez said, which is the connecting the pieces and the dots, and really just what we're all talking about, what Rez and I are talking about, is helping the industry rise together with the right people connected so that the communities we serve benefit. What we do for a living already saves money. What we do for a living already helps in so many different ways. The rest is just getting it right, helping everybody come together to get it right for the communities we serve.
And Eddie is being humble. Eddie is known to come in and help close deals for solar reps who don't really know how to close deals, and I'll help them close the deal, because the financing at the end sometimes is the way you close the deal. And Eddie comes in and helps solar reps finalize their deals. So, that's an amazing thing that you don't really talk much about, Eddie.
Yeah, well, I mean, I always say, because
everyone contact Eddie. Everyone, he'll close your deals for you.
I'm telling you, the guy is amazing.
I appreciate that, guys. It means the world to me to have you call that out. It's what we strive for as people, right? To be recognized, and but at the end of the day, this is that tenfold I was talking about. Just that one comment, that's tenfold for me. One person I helped, if I can get a compliment like that, that feeds my soul to go help another person. And so I'll just finish by saying this is my experience. If I wasn't utilizing my experience to help reps close deals so they could support their family, then what am I doing? What am I doing with all that I've learned over all of these years? Even though I was in the mortgage world, we're doing, commercial and residential mortgages. I was also helping developers take down land and get entitlements and, build their spec homes. And there's a myriad of things that my past has to offer this particular industry. So I wouldn't be doing anybody any favors if I just held it to myself.
And J. Rez, anything you want to add before we get to the next segment?
Just that I totally agree. I mean, it feels good to apply what you know and be able to use it in a positive way. And as you were speaking, Eddie, I think I realized that the connection for me is the self-improvement kick. I mean, it's the same drive at work. I love helping companies and people, exceed where they are, where they're at now. And so I want to work harder to get further and do better and be more successful. And that just means accomplishing the goal of working together and helping them sign up more homeowners. And so it's the same thing. I want to improve myself, and I want to be a part of people improving themselves. And I just really like being along for that ride.
All right. Speaking of a ride, that's a perfect segue to our next segment. So hopefully you guys enjoy the ride here. This is something where we try to put you guys head to head in a competition, a little trivia competition. And Joshua, I see your hand going to Google. Take it up, put your hands in the air.
Just
And
stretching, just stretching.
this is a little segment we
Competition.
call Solar Trivia and History. Joshua, take it away, baby.
All right, so going into the deep combos. Now we're going to get into some. Well, some of these are good. Some of them are silly. Today's theme, the solar trivia, is about a little history. It's about a little technical stuff. Sort of a mix of everything. Some of them are ridiculous, but some of them we should all know. So
Just to make sure
we'll
we
see what
know,
happens.
these guys are not solar experts. There are financing experts, and that's why we're doing it. So that's the point of going for the trivia, things you not normally might not know. So
Some of them are ridiculous. I went through this quiz myself. I'm not going to tell you. what the
Rez is
score
going to
was
kick
that I
my
got.
butt on this. I already know.
We'll find out.
This is
I'm so
okay.
curious. There'll
This one I found is pretty damn random. So we'll see how
All
we
right,
do.
let's go.
But we've had some crazy results with these trivia quizzes. All
I'll
right,
keep.
let's finish off with some positive some fun here. So Joe's keeping score. Yeah, I've got 5 questions each. We'll go back and forth. Joe's going to keep score. We sort of make our rules up as we go with these things, so we're going to see how we do.
It's like Calvin
But
Ball.
we'll go back and forth.
By the end of the competition.
I'll start with Rez on this one, but there will be a winner at this, so be prepared for that. There's going to be a blue ribbon, and then there's going to be a participation.
I don't want no
Who knows? But
participation.
we'll see.
Just leave
We'll
me
see.
out. You either win or you go home.
That's it. That's how I was growing
Yeah.
up.
We
All
will
right,
send you
let's see
a
what we got.
participation trophy.
This is also multiple choice, so it's a bit easier. But so, for example, this one's a bit ridiculous, but we're going to start out with a bit of a ridiculous one, and we'll see if we can shoot for the stars. Rez, I'm going to give you 4 multiple choice options here. The question is, how much solar energy reaches the Earth's surface at any given moment? Option 1, 173 terawatts. Option 2, 17,300 terawatts. Option 3, 1.73 terawatts. Option 4, 173,000 terawatts.
I was gonna say option 1.
173 terawatts.
That's the guess.
Eddie, you want to try to steal?
Oh my gosh. I what's a terawatt again? I'm just kidding.
That's the
Yeah.
question.
I'll go with D. Or option 4.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, the big one.
There you go.
Okay.
Count? At this
Now, that was Eddie. I guess we're doing steals. We only have 10 questions total, so we might try some steals here. That was sort of a wild. I don't think we've ever had anyone on this podcast that would be able to get that
I did
right
not know that
purposefully.
Josh was asking that question. I would have deleted it if I saw that. Okay.
No. We're not picking questions for Rez. That's not the game we're in here. I literally Googled children's quiz for photovoltaics.
Children's?
Even better. I learned something today. I'm happy.
You make a
Yeah, it gives a little thing at the bottom here. I got that one wrong as well, by the way, when I got it. But let's go to the second one. We're gonna get a bit easier here.
This is for Eddie.
This one is for Eddie. Yeah, that's correct. Okay. That one's a bit too easy. What does the word photovoltaic mean? Sun-powered, light cells, light-electricity, or solar-energy?
I'm going to have to go with D.
Solar-energy? Is that your final answer?
I have a feeling it's electric, but I'm going to go with D.
Is incorrect. Rez, do you want to try for the steal?
I was going to say
Repeat the
C,
question if you
light
like.
electricity.
Correct.
Oh,
There it is.
We're back.
There you go. I'm redeemed.
1-1. We are 1-1 here. 1-1. All right. I would be impressed if anyone on this gets this. But I think this is another fun one. So let's go to Rez. Who discovered the photovoltaic effect? American physicist Enrico Fermi, German physicist Heinrich Rudolf Hertz, Italian physicist Alessandro Volta, or French physicist Edmond Becquerel.
I'm assuming C with Volta in the name.
Mhm.
Is that your final answer?
So when he
That's my
says
final
that
answer.
kind of answer, it's usually wrong. Just to let you know.
No, that's not particularly.
That's a key.
Yeah.
That's it. Oh my
No,
gosh.
no. All right, Eddie, you want to go for the steal
I
again?
told you.
Oh man, really? That was wrong. That was my answer. So say the other three names again here. Oh my goodness.
American physicist Enrico Fermi. Why are they teaching third graders this?
Yeah.
This is still true.
American physicist Enrico Fermi, Italian physicist Alessandro Volta, French physicist Edmond Becquerel, and German physicist Heinrich Rudolf Hertz
Hertz.
discovered the photovoltaic effect.
We're gonna go with Hertz.
Hertz,
I can see it on.
wrong on both accounts.
Who was it?
Joe, do you know? You're shaking your head as you're like, no.
No, because
come on,
obviously
these
it's not
guys don't-
the guy's name is Current or Volts or it's gonna.
Yeah, Hertz.
So I
Yeah.
don't think
It's literally the other one. It's French physicist Edmond Becquerel.
Man.
Apparently.
of course, nobody got that one.
Today I learned.
All right. Okay, let's get into some general stuff. So this is Eddie. I think this is actually, I don't know. We'll see. Eddie, what are the most common photovoltaic cells used today? Organic cells, polymer cells, plastic cells, or crystalline silicon cells?
Silicone.
Ding, ding, ding.
Yeah, I don't
There
want
we
to
go.
shake my head, but that was an easy one there.
Yeah,
Great
thanks
job,
for the
Eddie.
softball. I appreciate that.
2-1.
Okay. This is an interesting one, and I guessed this one, and I did get it right. But it's a pretty interesting question, and this would be for Rez. Roughly, how much did the cost of PV solar panels decrease between 2008 and 2015? 40%, 20%, 40%, 60%, or 80%?
I think it was 80%.
Correct. 80% decrease just from 2008 to 2015.
I remember having this
That
on a
is-
slide when I was selling for Sungevity during that
Josh.
time. So
Rez, you lived it.
yeah, it was. I remember sending customers articles about how the solar equipment cost was dropping, but the rebates and incentives were dropping at the same time. And yeah, wild.
I joined the industry when it dropped
Nice one.
80%. I said, now it's time to join. I think it's good.
Yeah, I think the first panels I sold were 175 watt, 170 watt panels.
Ooh. I think first I ever did was 210, 220.
There you go.
And they were this. They
Back
were
in the
more. They
day.
cost
Yeah.
more
What are
than
we
the
at now?
panels
Now we're
today.
at
Yeah,
100%.
crazy. What are we at now? We at 2-2?
Yeah, 2-2.
2-2. But we're back at Eddie.
Who's
So
keeping track?
Oh. All right. Okay. Joe's keeping track.
I know.
He's got,
Eddie,
he's
keeping track
definitely
too.
keeping
That's what he's saying.
Yeah, my comment was that I'm keeping track.
I
as
don't
well.
I don't think anyone has an upper hand.
Oh no, I have no idea what we're talking about.
This quiz is no, this quiz is all over the place. I think you're going to be okay here. Let's go for this. What form of energy do concentrating solar power technologies use to generate electricity? Static electricity, chemical electricity, magnetic electricity, or thermal electricity? Thermal. Exactly correct. Concentrating solar power technologies. It's the mirrors.
I think Josh's tone is giving you away the answers. Your tone changes on the right answer.
No.
Yeah,
not-
thermal.
Hey,
not at
electronic
all.
gift cards in your email.
Thank you, sir. I know obviously this isn't photovoltaic, but it's still on the solar side, so it's interesting. But we gotta make it somewhat equal here. So, Rez, which of the following is not a technology used in concentrating solar power? So not photovoltaic, concentrating solar power. Power tower, linear Fresnel, cathode ray tubes, parabolic trough. I told you.
Say those again.
So, solar knowledge isn't good. Okay. Which of the following is not a technology used in concentrating solar power?
Right.
Not photovoltaic, concentrating. Power tower, what that is, linear Fresnel technology, cathode ray tube technology, parabolic trough technology.
I know the answer just by the way you said those answers.
I'm gonna say cathode ray.
Is that your final answer?
See, be careful,
Final
bro.
answer.
That's not the second
Trying
one.
to fake me out.
It is the correct answer.
Ah,
That is
perfect.
the only technology not used. in
Good job. We're tied
If
up.
I'm wrong, I'm gonna commit to it though.
Got the call.
Like if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
This is actually a great idea for future quizzes. We say it's a solar quiz. We get solar experts, and then we go like randoms, like manufacturing gnome garden lights or something.
Garden gnomes.
You know,
I thought you were
solar
gonna-
panels at the top.
How long do solar powered
do-
garden lights last?
Oh my god.
Yeah, I thought you were a professional. Come on, you should know this.
I thought it was gonna be way off topic, like name all the actors on the cast of Cheers or something like that.
We were gonna do that, but we decided against.
You should watch our other podcast. We go way off with these. We thought we'd go a bit towards solar today, just a bit.
I'll allow it.
All right, so we are at 3-2, or are we 3-3?
We are tied up 3-3.
Okay. So I have a wacky question that we can do a tiebreaker with. That is it's going to be wacky. What do we think? Should we do this? I'm going to get everyone give the answers.
Act like you've done this before, Josh.
You guys have a pen and paper. What?
Just act like you've done this before, Josh. Come on.
Yeah. But we have a multiple choice, and if I do the multiple choice, one of them says it, then the other one might say the same thing because the other one.
Just
So
buzz
what
it
if
in. Buzz
we
it
do a
in.
pen?
They can just beep.
No, it's multiple choice. Let's just see how it goes. 3-3 tiebreaker. About how many mirrors are used at Ivanpah, a solar electric generating system, the largest concentrating solar power facility in the U.S.? So how many mirrors? And we're not at photovoltaic. We're mirrors. 350,000, 35,000, 3,500, or 350.
Why don't you just give
Need
them a
answers from both.
blindfold and a dart and a bullseye?
That's not 350,000. That's 35,000. 3,500 and 350.
We have 350,000, 350, 3,500, and 35,000 are our options here. How many mirrors in the largest concentrating solar power facility in the US?
Okay, what's yours?
Well, I think Josh can see the screen there. So,
You see it?
I can see.
okay, I see it. Now he can see it as well.
Hey,
Though.
Josh,
That's sort of
Yeah,
easier.
I was gonna do the same guess. I promise.
I don't
This
know.
is. I told you, Joe.
Told you, buzzing in would have solved that, though.
Well, the answer is correct. So now we have to go to another question here. So we are still tied up.
We're tied at
We're on
4-4 now.
We're at a marathon here.
Last one. Here we go.
all right.
Tiebreaker. Who's the champion?
We got it. Yep.
Howard,
Let's see what we got. Okay. This could be.
are we gonna do a buzz?
Yeah, actually,
Are we buzzing them in, or what are we doing?
let's do a buzz. I will accept answers. Is that we've all been in solar for quite a while now. This could be very, very specific. There's no way. Okay, I'll just read the question. We'll see what happens. The first one to answer within, let's say, 3% wins. Of all new generating capacity added to the U.S. electrical grid in 2015, what percentage was solar?
3%.
Okay, what was your answer? J-Rez had an answer. Now he's being quiet. I don't know.
Oh, I said 3%, but now I'm second guessing myself.
So
You're
say the
retracting
question
your
one more time.
answer.
Of all new generating capacity added to the U.S. electrical grid in 2015, what percentage was solar? 2015.
Oh, one.
That's a good question.
Yeah,
And you said it has to
that's
be
a small
3%?
number. Added. Oh, a percentage of added generation, not.
Existing, yeah.
Yeah. I'd say 8%.
All right, J-Rez, that'd be you. Whoever's closest
I'm gonna
wins.
stick.
Let's go closest without going over.
Okay, then I'm gonna say 0.1%.
Wow. Actually, apparently 29.4%.
Guys, you're way off. You should have said
Wow,
9.
that's
Well, so
amazing.
because it's a
I
skewed
might have been
number,
thinking US
because
only.
Josh or Rez was actually correct in the amount that it's come to as a whole, but you're talking about the new generation of solar, so that's what threw the question off. Good question though.
But that makes you the champion.
Solar accounts. Yes, that is it is a champion. And the source here, while solar accounts for less than 2% of U.S. electrical generating capacity overall, it is one of the fastest growing energy markets in the country, with solar power continuing to get more affordable and new installations happening every day. The solar industry is booming, and for the first time, more solar generating capacity was added in 2015 than natural gas in U.S. history. And that's why we're in the industry, boys.
So, Eddie, how
There
does
you
it feel to beat Joshua Resnick in the solar trivia history competition?
Well,
Solar
I always love to win, but it's anticlimactic when you are victor against a friend. So
Good
Hey, I
answer,
thought
Eddie.
you either win or you go home. What happened to
Yeah,
Mercantile?
I'm happy I won, but it's always muted when you win against somebody you love and respect.
Okay.
We'll rematch with arm wrestling or
Well, that
something.
concludes the solar trivia.
That's also actually closes up our show. Really appreciate you guys getting on here last minute. I know you guys are doing a million things, adding awesome value to the audience and the industry and the community at all times. One last time before you guys bounce, if anybody watching is like, J-Rez, I gotta get to know the guy better. I want to learn from him. I want to reach out to him. What's the best way to reach out to you, Josh?
I would say Facebook or LinkedIn. I'm easy to find. If you spell my name right, then I'll pop right up. But yeah, those who know me on Facebook I'm pretty easy to find, and feel free to share my phone number with anyone who wants to reach me.
And just let him know his middle name is Diamond, and they will know you watched the show.
Exactly.
Verified on CSLB.
You looked it up?
No, I'll look it up now.
We just trust you, Josh.
I'm trusting you.
You got a trusting face. And Eddie, man, I'm always tagging you. I'm always letting people know what you're doing. But if somebody needs to reach out, they need commercial financing, they want a commercial installer, they want to reach out to you for training, whatever else. What's the best way to reach out to you?
Yeah, I find text messages are the most efficient in my life. So feel free to reach out to me at 925-922-1335. I get back to every single person that either texts or calls me, within 24 hours, but usually within an hour. So if you got a project that you're looking at doing, you just want some advice, or you just want, just general conversation, or have a question about financing, even though I don't live in the resi world, I certainly help a ton of reps on a monthly basis with navigating, residential side. But of course, if you need a great commercial bank to partner with for solar or HVAC or roofing or siding or windows, and we do a lot. We do new construction as well as existing properties where we're adding improvements to our full gut rehabs.
That's awesome. That's Eddie Fernandez with Forbright. And we got Joshua Diamond Resnick with Sungage. We got Joshua King with the Virtual Solar Club. Any last words, Josh?
Good to go. Thanks, guys, very much. Good to meet you. And future chats and DMs on social media, I'm sure.
Appreciate
you guys. Talk
Thank-
soon.
Thank you. Take care.
Hey, guys.
Later.
Good one.